Aye.
Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Holland, Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick, Malik, Mosley,
Aye.
Neal,
Here.
Amobian, Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present except for Councilwoman Holland.
For those who voluntarily wish to do so, would you please stand at this time as we are led in prayer by Reverend Dr. Sandy Shelby, who is the pastor of Furnace Street Mission. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilman Freeman will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. But before we do that, I do want to turn it over to Councilman Fusco.
Yes, thank you. I would like to request a moment of silence. James McCarthy, previously was our executive, Summit County executive. Before that, he was the Summit County auditor, and before that, he was the clerk of courts for Summit County. And he had passed last night, and I'd ask for a moment of silence out of respect.
Thank you. Reverend Dr. Shelby.
Let us pray. Holy One, we gather this evening in this place because we care about this city, its people, its land, its infrastructure, its institutions. We give thanks for being among people who care. Whether we are elected officials, city staff, or citizens, we are in this place tonight because we are committed to the welfare of the people of Akron. We are committed to working for justice, for equity, for safety, and for the well-being of the many people who live and work in this city. Empower us tonight to listen to and hear the voices of others and to work together with wisdom and compassion to advance the common good. Holy One, in all that we do tonight and in the days ahead, help us to serve you by serving others. Amen.
Amen.
United States of America. To the republic which is standing one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty, justice for all.
The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor, Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco, Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Mosley,
Aye.
Neal,
Abstain.
Amobian,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The motion to approve the minutes passes 11-0 with one abstention.
Before you is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there-
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor, Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Mosley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 12-0.
We do have one item up for public hearing. Our clerk will read that item in.
Notice is hereby given that the following open comment public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, October 30th, 2023, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. There are 3 ordinances to be discussed for this public hearing. There's an ordinance amending the zoning map by changing the apartment house use district classification U2H2A2 use on property located south of the properties fronting East Market Street from Fountain Street East to Ivan Place to a retail business use district classification U3H485 use. An ordinance amending or supplementing Title 15, Chapter 153 zoning code Section 153.140 definitions, and Section 153.310 business and industry requirements by establishing a form-based urban overlay district for the East Market Street corridor, and an ordinance amending or supplementing Title 15, Chapter 153 Zoning Code, Article 1, General Provisions, and Article 6, Development and Area District Requirements regarding the East Market Street urban overlay area and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of council. The city administration is requesting rezoning of approximately 5.7 acres of land south of East Market Street between State Route 8 on the west and Ivan Place on the east for the future mixed-use development. The included properties are largely owned by Summa Health System and have frontage on Fountain, Adolph, Franklin, and Spruce Streets. Over the previous several years, these parcels have been cleared of their residential uses and are now either vacant or developed with parking lots for Summa. Several small residential properties along Ivan Place under various ownership are also included. The current zoning classification of all the property is Apartment House Use District, U2, H2A2. The existing Retail Business Use District, U3, H4A5, along the south side of East Market Street would be expanded in a southwesterly direction to include this subject land. Additionally, the regulatory elements of the proposed East Market Street form-based urban overlay from Route 8 to Case Avenue, presented and approved by Planning Commission on August 14th, 2020, and currently pending City Council approval, would be applied over the same land to be rezoned. The purpose of establishing a form-based overlay area is to preserve and enhance the architectural character of existing and new buildings in Akron's older urban neighborhoods by encouraging walkability and equitable access to buildings that are placed up to a primary street with sufficient but controlled parking at the rear and sides of buildings and established building design standards. The proposed rezoning in conjunction with the form-based development standards would provide not only predictability and control in terms of building form, but also flexibility in terms of the locations of specific uses for the proposed future development of the site, consisting of mixed-use apartments, retail, and a hotel. The Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, we're going to open up our public hearing. Do we have everyone here in the chambers who wishes to speak in favor or against our East Market Street public hearings? Do we have anyone else here in the hallway who wishes to participate? Okay. If you wish to speak in favor or against the East Market Street public hearing, I'm going to ask that you please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by our clerk.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, "I do."
I decree.
Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, we are going to begin with all those who wish to speak in favor.
Good evening, I'm Apostle Ed, and as you know, I'm always for positive change. If it's mandatory and necessary that it just become a retail district, I would like to know where the displaced people are who are homeless, where are they going to end up? If this is a retail district that's going to pass anyway, what will happen to those residents? Are they being pushed out or whatever? And I'm going to summarize my statements for this evening, because some people have an issue with my coming every time I speak, and I wish they would come and join me instead of oppose me. And I would like this council to make it known to me, as well as to all the constituents, what is the vision for zoning? We're doing redistricting and rezoning in the city, the state, and in this country. And people are being placed in multiple different places, and homelessness is on the uprise. But businesses and corporations are profiting while the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, and the middle class and the working middle class are stuck in the middle of a mess. So I would like to know the vision for all of this zoning and rezoning. I would like to know the vision to have the homelessness, and I would like to know the vision for the businesses. I'm all about businesses. I have my own. But I am wanting them to be profitable and beneficial for the needs of the people. So please give me an answer for what is your vision for all of this zoning. Well, I could go down the list if I wanted to with every resolution that you have, but if we don't know the overall process, then we can't help you with what you're doing or even address what the real concern is. Thank you this evening. And once again, anyone who has an issue with my speaking,
Apostle.
please see me. My phone number is
Apostle.
330-428-9191, and I would be glad to have a conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, this is a public hearing, and it is related to East Market Street urban overlay. So if there's anyone else here in the audience who wishes to speak as it relates to that, I'm going to ask that you approach the podium if you want to speak in favor. Is there anyone else wanting to speak in favor?
I'm Whitman Sullivan. I am 100% in favor of form-based zoning code. Anywhere in the city, this will have a positive effect on the urban fabric, as well as the general planning of the community. The one concern I do bring up on East Market Street, though, is the fact that there is no real semblance on that part of the street of any current businesses or any economic district for that community. The biggest thing that I'd urge this council to do is create some sort of program for residents, current residents of that area and neighborhood, to start businesses and to start organizations. The worry that I have is that we will see gentrification and we will see an influx of more wealthy residents to displace current residents, which will tear apart the fabric of that neighborhood and community. So form-based zoning code, I am in favor, but I do have concerns about making sure we have community engagement in this new zoning code. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Do we have anyone here? Yep.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Adam Branscombe, and I work with a development company called Fairmount Properties. We have been working with SUMA on a redevelopment plan, which would potentially be implemented within this East Market zoning overlay boundary. The project that we have envisioned is the culmination of a number of years of planning. We're still in the very early stages of that, but there have been a series of community meetings. We've had a few in the last 60 days. There are a couple more on the calendar for the next few weeks to gather community input and to help shape the ultimate vision for this project. What we're proposing would be apartments, ground floor retail, very much in a pedestrian scale, and we've got a hospitality user that's interested in being part of this site. We would anticipate this investment to be in the ballpark of $55 to $60 million. We would anticipate that the job creation on a permanent basis would be in the neighborhood of 230 jobs. We'd also be creating about 350 local construction jobs for this project. So as a developer, we're definitely in favor of form-based zoning. We have the opportunity of developing all over the country, and one thing I've noticed is certainly that a lot of the forward-thinking cities across the country have adopted form-based zoning code to try to encourage and enable the right kind of development. So some of the projects that we've done, you might be familiar with First and Main and Hudson or downtown Kent. We've done some work in this region. So it would be our honor to do our next project here on East Market Street. So in favor of the zoning code, thanks for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in favor?
Hi, good evening. Ed Friedel with Summa Health System, 525 East Market Street. We were approached by the city for the East Market District overlay rezoning, and we're adopting it. At the same time, Fairmont approached us, so it was a perfect opportunity to bring both together. You can hear a lot of talk about the community garden. So Summa owns 3 or 4 parcels along Adolph Street. We need that that land, and the garden was allowed knowing that in the future we would need it at some point. And we have provided 3 alternate locations for that garden, 2 300 feet south on Adolph, between Adolph and Fountain. So there are other options for the garden, not to get it mixed up with the zoning request because it's totally 2 separate issues. But on behalf of Suma Health System, we are in favor of the city's planned rezoning district. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Okay. Now we're going to open it up for those who wish to speak against.
Oh, go ahead. Just go ahead.
It's mixed. My name's Patrick Duff. I'm a homeowner, property owner. I also have 3 properties in Adolph Street. We've been there for quite some time. One of the properties is a home that I put my kids through school in. And I'm trying to figure out a way to turn it over to my daughter. The other is an apartment building that put a lot of effort into. It's a beautiful brownstone. It's the only apartment building that like it there. And it's been fully occupied, 4 units, ever since I've had it. And it's very affordable rent, good place to be. I'm really torn here because I think this could be a really great thing for the city, what they're doing. But no one's ever come to me. No one's ever come to me about this development. I had to figure it out on my own, people talking about it. I went to the only meeting I went to was the gentleman you had at the library talking about the development. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And so my big beef is that we've got a beautiful green space there, and I've asked people to come look at it. The property that's right along Route 8 between Bookdole and Market Street, it's a beautiful green space, wonderful buffer for those properties, our properties, and the other properties that are there. I had an encounter about 2 months ago with the Suma folks because I saw them over there with the landscaping company, and they were literally cutting things, and they were looking at how they're going to, and one guy told me we're going to bulldoze the whole thing. It's all coming out. All this property is going to be bulldozed, so they'll be exposed to Route 8. It's really sad. It's very sad that they have this opportunity to create something really great, and because they can't look at what's there now, keep the green space so when you're driving up Route 8, you'll still see green space. The people that live there won't have a constant, the wheels turning, the cars going up and down the highway. If they do a parking lot, they still don't need to tear it all down. Garden's a whole other issue. There's a lot of issues here. I wish that folks would have come to the residents that live there and talked to us about what we thought about it, what was happening. There's been land acquired behind our properties without us having the opportunity to buy it. There was land that was there that, from what I understand, Department of Transportation and SUMA, I think, did a deal on it. I don't want to get into it with people. I just want people to look at the green space, consider the people that currently live there, take a pause, and what could be. I mean, you're going to put how many units there? 120 or something like that? The people that want to walk their dogs, they need a place they could walk around. It's a great green spot right now. And they're going to flatten it out and put a parking lot. And if you drive by, and no harm to the YMCA, but they're going to give it these spots to the YMCA for the parking. They don't need that much space. I mean, we could be more creative with the situation. I'm pleading with City Council, with hopefully the mayor-elect coming in, to go drive over there and look at it, meet with me. There's some real talented people that are living there now, creative people, educated people that are trying to do great things for your city. If you could just give them some time, talk to people, we could come up with a good way to make it work. It'll be great for the city. I've talked to several people. I think, Mike, you agreed with me that the buffer doesn't need to go away, right? I'm just really torn apart by it. I put an awful lot into this, my life, and it's something that my wife and we love, being able to have someone in there, a tenant, good place for them to live. A lot of times they're graduate students, but there's some professionals in there. Again, my name's Patrick Duff. I've got a lot of things to say, but other people have the time, and I don't want to take it all. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Mr. Duff, thank you so much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak against?
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Avery Duff. I live at 54 South Adolph Street, and that was my dad. I'm an artist and urban farmer. I work for Let's Grow Akron. I was born in Akron and lived on South Adolph Street for 12 years. I've been gardening at the Adolph Street Community Garden for that entire 12 years. While living on the street, I've witnessed Summa Hospital tear down over half the houses and trees in the neighborhood and make those spaces into parking lots. It has been incredibly stressful and sad to live through, and I have always anticipated the day would come when they would pave over our community garden and my own home. Today, my home is surrounded on 3 sides by Summa's land and parking lots. The rezoning we are voting on today gives Summa Health the reason they have been looking for to turn our community garden into a parking lot. This is one of the most popular, diverse, and active community gardens in the city of Akron, and has been a connection point for people from many parts of the world and various socioeconomic backgrounds. I urge all members of Council to recognize the ripple effect that this rezoning and any future development plans for our neighborhood has on our residents, especially people like me of a lower socioeconomic background. The hospital, developers, and many city employees view people like me and the place I live as ugly and dirty, but I've always grown flowers and food here and made paintings of our neighborhood to celebrate the beauty that's here. One of the paintings of our community garden even sits in the Summa Health Art Collection. Now it will serve as a memory of what we made and what was beautiful before they turned it into a parking lot. I would like to see a future where we can invest not just in hotels and wine bars, but also permanent community gardens for all of our neighbors. We ask that Summa and our community partners help us in establishing a permanent space of same quality for the community garden and stop encroaching on the residents and pressuring us out of our homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak against?
Hi, I'm Raina. I live on West 93rd Street in Cleveland, Ohio, but I have been a resident of the Middlebury neighborhood near the garden. I'm an urban farmer. I've been a neighbor gardener, neighbor leader, community garden leader at South Adolph Street for the past 6 or 7 years. So I've seen a lot of the development take place just across the street from the garden as I've been there. I'd like to speak against the current rezoning motion or to table the motion until more neighborhood involvement is had. I think you've heard a lot of these comments tonight where the neighbors have not really been looped in. There have been meetings, but what has the outreach effort been on behalf of Summa and the developers to actually reach out to the people that live in this neighborhood? There needs to be more. Summa's development practices in the last 6 or 7 years, I've seen neighbors pushed out from their longtime residents as parking lots have been boxed around their current home until they are forced to leave. I've seen fences put up around homes. I've seen a lot of trees cut down in the neighborhood that were there for many decades before Summa came along. I believe strongly that we all want to improve the Middlebury neighborhood, and that starts with talking to the current residents and inviting them to the table to make sure that they're heard and nurtured in this conversation when we talk about uprooting, destroying their neighborhood, and then rebuilding it. We need to first talk to the people that currently live there and pay attention to what they're saying. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak against?
My name's Pete Bach. I live at 54 South Adolph Street. I've been living on Adolph for about 11 years now, and I've been an employee at Let's Grow Akron for about 9 years. Let's Grow Akron takes care of the community garden, so I've been gardening there for about 11 years. So I'm very invested in the street, and been sadly watching Summa develop the street over the course of the time living there, and just wasn't expecting to see my neighborhood get changed from being very green to very concrete laden. I second the statements of my community members against the development. I want to add some questions and thoughts for council to think about for now in the future pertaining to this development. SUMA owns other parcels along Adolph Street, but like closer to Book Dole, and I believe they have plans to continue to push towards Book Dole, which is further encroachment on the residents there. And I just wonder, when is enough enough? When does SUMA have enough? How much further do they have to go? Do they need to buy up all the lots all the way to Book Dole, and then on to Carroll, then on to Exchange? When do you have enough? And then with that in mind, since development is very seriously on the rise all throughout this country, where do the regular folks get to live? I'm also concerned with seeing a hospital concerned with real estate development, when I feel like they should be focused more on the healthcare itself. And there's a lot of money going into things other than the healthcare, and I feel like maybe that could reduce people's healthcare costs. I'm sure everyone in this room has a friend or loved one who's gone through some sort of long-term treatment, and navigating the healthcare system is daunting and very expensive. And so maybe development isn't the best focus for SUMA's time and resources. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we have maybe a few more people in the hallway who wish to speak against.
Hello, my name is Fran Wilson. I live in West Hill off of Myrtle Street. I wanted to start off with some basic facts. This development in Middlebury hugs two zip codes, 44304 and 44305. 44304 has a median household income of $20K. The household median value is $45K. Renters make up a significant part of this zip code at 76%, and most housing stock originated before 1939. In 44305, the median household is worth $77K. Income is $36K, and 33% renters live in the area. Fairmont Properties is the developer for this proposed project. They are a luxury housing and mixed-use property developer. 3 projects that I would like to highlight are Cleveland Flats on East Bank, whose rent per month is $1,200 to $800. The Kent State Landmark Apartments, which averages about $1,200 per month in rent. And then the Pinecrest, which averages $2,000 to $3,000 per month for rent. We do not need housing and wine bars, however nice, or hotels and wine bars, however nice, in Middlebury. Talking to neighbors, we need housing that is affordable and sustainable, and we need better access to food resources. One thing I would like council to look at is the voting turnout for the Planning Commission. There was a split vote. I would ask council to look at why there was such a close vote on this housing development. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the hallway wishing to speak against?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam Phillips. I live at 507 Bell Street in Akron. I'm here as a community member, speaking on behalf of the community garden on Adolph Street. I also work for Let's Grow Akron and help to coordinate our community gardens all across town. And so from that experience, I can speak to the gem that is the Adolph Street Community Garden. This garden has existed for over 10 years in exactly the same spot that it is right now. This garden is our most popular and desired community garden. There's always a wait list. It serves at least 25 gardeners every year. These are folks who bring their families out, grow their own food, fresh produce right in their neighborhood. Many of them walk to and from the garden. Many of the gardeners are students. Many of the gardeners are low income. Many of the gardeners may also be immigrants. So this is a very unique population that's being served here. I am not personally opposed to development. We need to move forward as a city and as neighborhoods, and we need money invested in the right places for those purposes. However, I'm speaking on this issue because this particular development has a domino effect. Because of the development that's happening along Market Street, SUMA would like Fairmont to put in a building in the parking lot, which is currently the YMCA parking lot. For that reason, they want to move their current YMCA parking lot across the street to the Adolph Street Community Garden. We believe that SUMA has the power and resources to find another location for this parking lot. We believe that our community garden should be a priority of both the city and a healthcare provider. I would like to thank Fairmont for the effort that's put forward in having community input discussions. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to attend thus far, but I've heard about them. And I think Councilman Fusco made the point earlier today that that doesn't happen all the time to even have those meetings, so thank you. Now what you're seeing is that we have raised our issues at these meetings. You asked for our opinions and we're telling you. So please listen to us. It's not enough just to have the meeting and say that you did it. Now we'd like to be heard. So our specific ask is that the garden on South Adolph Street be preserved as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the hallway wishing to speak against? Okay, we have a couple still in chambers.
My name is David Garan. I'm speaking against because unlike the Merriman Valley development, which you spent 2 years working on at least, there was opposition by Preserve the Valley, people who had money and power who slowed you down. You don't have that in this neighborhood. You don't have that money interests to say, whoa, whoa, wait a moment, Jeff Fusco's ideas aren't always right. So, and you're going to pass this on an emergency basis? You need to go through the 3 readings. You need to actually go back. I've talked to the community organizer who worked on the Merriman Valley project, who said you actually did a pretty good job because you were forced to. You were forced to by people who had money and power and organization to force you to do the right thing. Learn from that and apply that to other neighborhoods in Akron. Slow this down. SUMA can wait. We need to think about this more. If you look at how the womb was redeveloped, that space, all that ground floor retail, that's empty. It's been empty, what, 2 years now? You got to be smart about development. You can't just go with the corporations. They're going to try to get squeeze every dime out of this community. You need to slow down. You need to go through the regular process, which you don't normally follow. Do not pass this tonight. Slow it down. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak against?
I'm against this as well as being a resident of Akron almost 10 years come December. My daughters had just started going to the community gardens as of this year with their counselor. And so with that being said, I just found out that one of my daughters was autistic. I think that for our children that has disabilities and that are going out to different assets with their counselors and everything else, should be able to continue to go to the certain gardens, because with changes, what I'm learning with autistic kids, disability kids, kids with ADHD, regardless mental health, even for our adults, when you're changing certain locations, it can affect them tremendously. So we need to invest in better things than just keep on doing all of these developmentals, as even though I'm a low-income person, I'm not scared to say it. I don't own my home, I rent. I've been there for 10 years. My landlords, I went through 3 of them, and all my landlords love me because I'm active into this community. So I'm not ashamed to say that I'm a poor Black mother of children who has disabilities, mental health, and everything else. But we cannot keep on developing all these different types of things, and we don't have no other resources to take our kids to. So I'm asking you to figure out something else.
And just for the record, if you can just give us your name.
Sorry, I'm Lillian.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the audience who wishes to speak against? You can approach the podium.
My name is Larry Steele. I'm a resident of South Adolph. I see all this stuff about council coming up there and rezoning everything, taking the apartments out. This is people's livelihood. And then they lose their houses, stuff like that. This whole thing that's coming in, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know anything that council was doing. Where do I live? I've lived on Adolph for 40 years. I worked for the city for 27 years fighting fires. I didn't just move in there, and I ain't leaving. So I just wonder, is council, they're right up to me, rezoning everything. Are we next? Am I gonna use my 40-year house? That's the question. And all the things these people said is true. The green space along the freeway there, I remember when that was planted. That was, it was not supposed to be planned, but it is. It's really exotic stuff. They're gonna not tear it all down. I don't know why. That garden is really busy down the street. But I'm more concerned about my 40-year house. Is it gonna be rezoned by the council and try to run me out? That's all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak against? Seeing and hearing none, we're going to close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
I'd like to pull a committee to refer this item. Kamer.
Aye.
Tanner. Baylor.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Yes, we'd like to refer this item. We had quite a bit of discussion this afternoon from the residents. There's been concern obviously raised about not only the zoning piece of this, but the community garden, which we do as a council are very concerned about and has been echoed during the committee meetings today. The other piece of it is that there's been 3 community meetings already, and I understand there's 2 more about to come. One on November 7th at the United Methodist Church on East Market Street, and the next one will be on the 10th. 18th, thank you, Sharon Connor. 12:30 Reservoir Park, 6 o'clock at the library in Goodyear Heights. So further discussion ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. This item will be referred. That does conclude our public hearing for this evening. We're now going to move into old business, planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco.
Yeah, we request time on 4 through and including 21. And the request of the committee for item number 22 is for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Excuse me, Mr.
After
Chair.
our clerk reads it in.
Yes, this does have a substitute offered as an amendment. It's item number 3 under new legislation. Substitute offered as an amendment, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to place an oversized pole sign at 725 South Canton Road and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. There was a number of concerns that was raised by the community in this proposed Dairy Queen. Council Representative McKittrick worked with the neighbors, worked with Mike Antonucci and the folks in Planning Department to iron all those concerns out. And now that that's been done, we recommend approval this evening.
Thank you so much. Any further comments? The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor, Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Mosley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Homobian,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0.
Councilman Fusco?
File 23, that's the petition, and then time on the balance. Thank you.
Time will be granted. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
Time.
Time will be granted. Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
Committee's report is favorable, and we ask for passage this evening.
Thank you so much. Do you have any further comment before we go for the vote?
Just that we certainly appreciate the Forever Our Children organization for doing such a fine job in bringing together a lot of partners to bring about this unique program to our city. If those of you who didn't hear about it, it's called the Shower Bus, in addition to all the other services they're providing. And I know that we have Ms. Laura Porter here, and she would like to make a comment, Madam President.
Absolutely. Pastor Porter?
Thank you, and thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Representative Amobian, and to all of City Council. On behalf of Robert Ford, who is the Executive Director and founder of Forever Our Children, our board, we just want to say thank you. Chris Luttle and the administrative side of the city, it has been amazing to work with fire and literally everybody, our partners, different ones, Access Health, various folks coming together, but I particularly, record-breaking speech, made it here tonight just because Rob was at work, but I wanted to be here to say thank you because we believe that the citizens of our city deserve basic human needs. And one of those basic human needs is to just clean up. Sometimes everybody does not have a major mental health issue where perhaps they're not able to work, but COVID really, we all took a hit, and there are some people that just need a hand up. So imagine being unhoused or homeless and being able to take a shower. We have partnerships with barbers that will be able to give haircuts and groom them. We have Gino's Pizza and different organizations that are going to feed them. We're working with a particular employment staffing agency that's going to work with other businesses in the community to ask them if they'll take people and give them an opportunity to at least begin to work again. If you can't get cleaned up, if you can't get decent clothes, if you can't be presentable, you can hardly get a job. Therefore, you'll never arise to the fullest capability that each individual has. So we just wanted to show up tonight. Rob asked me to come as a board member and just say thank you to each and every one of you that have voted this, I want to call it resolution. I want to call it proclamation, this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Porter.
With that, we ask for passage, Madam President.
Okay, thank you so much. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor, Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco, Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Mosley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 12-0.
That concludes our old business. We'll now move into new legislation, and we will begin with budget and finance.
Item number 1, offered by Freeman, ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of notes in a principal amount not exceeding $13 million to pay the property owner's portion in anticipation of the levy and collection of special assessments of the cost of improving certain streets in the city between certain termini by providing street cleaning services and street lighting and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report is favorable, and we ask for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This just allows us to issue a bond that covers the homeowner's portion of improvements With that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 2, offered by Freeman. Ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum principal amount of $12,600,000 for the purpose of paying a portion of the city's $48,645,000 various purpose general obligation bond anticipation note, Series 2022, at maturity and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Again, another item, issuing bonds. With that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 3 was the substitute that was already read in. Item number 4, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a Type A daycare business center at 493 South Canton Road and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will be referred.
Item number 5, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an oversized detached garage with a home office at 2280 Tinkham Road and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will also be referred.
Item number 6, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to vary the required side yard setback to construct an addition at 2259 Cross Creek Trail and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will be referred.
Item number 7, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts with New Singular Wireless PCS LLC and/or AT&T Mobility Corporation for the lease of certain space at and/or on the telecommunications tower located at 1370 Blackstone Avenue, effectively modifying and extending the current lease and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 8, offered by Fusco, ordinance accepting a vacation plat for a portion of Furnace Street and North Canal Street west of North Howard Street and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 9, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the vacation of portions of East Forest Street and South Broadway Street and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Consent agenda.
this item will also be placed on the consent agenda. That does conclude our new legislation for this evening. We're now going to move to our public comment period. If you are here in chambers, I'm going to ask that you please stand so that you may be sworn in. If you are going to participate virtually, also asking that you turn on your cameras and unmute yourselves so that you may be sworn in by our clerk.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, "I do."
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So just going to ask when you hear your name that you please approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. I'm going to ask that you refrain from clapping. This meeting is live streamed, so we have council members listening and also members of the public as well. So we're going to begin with apostolate.
Good evening again. I'm Apostolate, presidential candidate for the United States of America for 2024. And before I begin with what I'm going to say this evening, I stand on my Bill of Rights, my constitutional rights, my freedom of speech to address this council on any topic I decide to discuss. I am no longer to be harassed, insulted, or implied that I am off topic or silenced any efforts. I'm saying that in this meeting and any meetings to come, in any public or private platform, I stand on my Bill of Rights, my constitutional rights, my civil rights, and my human rights, and I want no further harassment from anyone. In the beginning, God and Goddess created the heavens and the earth. And one day a conversation took place. It wasn't between the all-boys club. It was a man and a woman. And they breathed life into our very being. But I want to challenge legislation today on capital punishment, because no one has a right to take another person's life. As you know, I am a published author. You say you are pro-life, yet war and capital punishment are on the table. You abuse, neglect, and endanger communities, then give them a label. You say you are waiting for a rainy day, the rainy day fund, of course. You say you really know the way. With our lives, you choose to play. Pro-life is really not what you plan or your way. Practice what you preach and do what you say. Choose life, not war. Take the death penalty off the floor. It will be then that we have a nation. We will truly have a blessed place to live, not the hypocrisy you choose to give. We have enough resources in the city, the state, the nation, and in this world that we don't need to take another life. We need to be writing legislation that are changing some of these things, because at one time, life was breathed into our nostrils. And it wasn't the all-boys club. Women have been along and on the scene all of our lives, and we are tired of you killing our children and our males through the law. Time to write the law that sets the captives free. Time to write laws that make sense. Time to stop taking babies away from their mothers and putting them in the lives of abusers. Time out. Because in the beginning, God and Goddess created the heavens and the earth.
Thank you, Apostolette. Reverend John Beatty.
Madam President and members of the council, when the Nazis massacred 6 million Jews, they did it secretly, after much propaganda and discrimination against them. The world has changed. Genocide then was secret. The German Christians could smell the burning flesh, but could pretend not to know. Today, if you watch Al Jazeera, you will know what the world knows. The surviving people without a land found what they said was a land without a people. But the land was filled with Palestinians, some Jews, but more Christians, and many more Muslims. Jews understandably wanted a homeland, just as was promised to Abraham in the Jewish scriptures. But they didn't want the Palestinians. So even before Israel was born, the Jewish Zionist Ergon gang was terrorizing the Palestinians even before the Shoah of World War II, the Holocaust. Then the Nakba of 1948 drove out many of the Palestinians from the Promised Land who had lived there for 2,000 years and forcibly occupied the Promised Land. Israel gradually became more and more fascist, imprisoning and oppressing their Palestinian brothers and sisters who resisted the occupation until October 7th, when an explosion of resistance to totalitarian control in the Gazan open-air prison resulted in the savage killing of 1,400 Jews and their friends. Now, the whole world is watching as Al Jazeera documents the genocide of 2.2 million Palestinians by the Israeli Defense Force, led by a corrupt Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, whose best friend is Donald J. Trump. I cannot stand by and watch this genocide without exclaiming, "Not in my name." It is my taxes that is buying the bombs, the tanks, the huge caterpillar bulldozers that is killing the innocent Palestinian children and mothers and bulldozing their homes in the name of democratic civilization. God is watching. And I pray for my Jewish friends caught in a web of disinformation by Netanyahu and the IDF. This war has come home to City Council tonight. I humbly ask you to pass a resolution to send Israel's leadership a message of disapproval of its genocide by ending our sister city's relationship with the Israeli city Kiryat Akron. I also ask you to pass a resolution to end our security partnership with Israel, in which their security apparatus is teaching our Akron Police Department how to control our black population. Thank you.
Again, I'm going to ask that you please refrain from clapping. Ms. Wineclaw. Is Ms. Wineclaw here with us? No? Whitman Sullivan.
Hello, I'm Whitman Sullivan. I'm a Ward 1 and 8 resident. I'm here to talk about a little bit more about Summa Health. Just like to bring a number to everyone's attention, 120,000. That is the square meters of parking, purely parking, taken up by Summa Health in the northern part of the Middlebury, East Akron area. This is a neighborhood that has a crater in the entire northern part of it. An area that has little to no life now, a business corridor that has been, again, decimated by parking, mostly surface parking. And this isn't unique to this neighborhood. We've seen this with Opportunity Parkway, where we have a vast amount of parking that has decimated what was Worcester Avenue, a thriving business district. And we also have a still ongoing encroachment of parking and of kind of a dead zone in the western part of downtown near Akron General and Akron Children's, where we still have entire blocks being demolished, most recently between, I believe, Cedar Exchange and two other streets I'm forgetting the name of. That has decimated historic buildings and again created these dead zones in our city. We are demolishing large swaths of our city so that people can get to things that are no longer there, so that people can go places that are worse, less enjoyable, and worse for the current residents. We need to, as a city, really take a look at how we are planning and how we are prioritizing our land. The simple fact is that parking provides little to no revenue for our city, both for the city government in taxes and for our city's residents in revenue through business or through residency. I would urge this council to take action, such as form-based zoning, throughout the city to try to prevent this, as well as eliminating things like minimum parking requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. DeJuan Wash.
Good evening, Council. My name is DeJuan Wash. I'm a Ward 1 resident. Man, in my 13 years of organizing, I have never been spoken to how I was spoken to last week. For me, one, you can call us a lot of things, but you can't call these folks cowards. You know, the person that said that ain't even here today. You know, at least we gonna show up and be 10 toes down with what we stand on and what we believe in. Now, you claim to be progressive, right? But we're so progressive that me, a 6'4" tall black dude, had to walk to my car being watched by police in this city, a city that shot and killed a black man and shot him 94 times in the back. But y'all are so anti-racist and so progressive that nobody seemed to see that was an issue. Right, now, getting back to the reason why we're all here, right, this resolution, I emailed council earlier today a little guide, right? And it talks about why you should care about Gaza. It includes the history of Palestine, Israel, and Hamas. It also talks about how Israel is the reason why Hamas is a thing, right? How they gave them money and how they propped them up. It also is going to talk to you about how the Israeli occupation is illegal. The UN said that. It's also going to talk about the Israeli war crimes and things such as this. We will turn Gaza into an island of ruins, said Benjamin Netanyahu. Wipe out their families, their mothers, and their children. These animals must not be allowed to live any longer. Ezra Yashin, right? So these are the sort of things that y'all friends, because that's how it was framed in the resolution, these are the things that your friends say. What it also says is that anti-Zionism, which is actually what you heard last week, so while we were lobbing out ad hominems and using a whole bunch of logical fallacies, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. It's important that you understand definitions and those different types of things when you're lobbing those out at people, right? And so why that's important is because it's an ever-changing definition what anti-Semitism is, because it benefits Israel to be able to have power over the language and over the word. So this explains to you what anti-Zionism is versus what anti-Semitism is. And here's what you can do, right? So what you can do is probably listen to the advice of your Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which I know that you did not do, because Gert Williams came and told your Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion officer that you would not use the resolution that she was going to use and that y'all was going to write your own resolution, which is the reason why we're here today. So had you used your Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion officer, perhaps it would have came out like this. But this resolution, expressing sympathy for the lives lost in Israel and Palestine, condemning violence of any kind, affirming Akron's status as a welcoming community for all, encouraging residents to offer support and sincere condolences to Jewish and Muslim communities of Akron and all over the world, and declaring an emergency. All you got to do is listen to the advice of the people that we pay y'all, right, to listen to, your Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion officer. Thank you.
Thank you, DeJuan. Avery Duff, again, refrain from clapping so that people can hear their names being called, please. Avery Duff. Nick. Is Nick here with us? Is there a Nick? Okay, hey, Nick, thank you.
It's been a minute since I've seen y'all. I'm displeased to be in your presence. So yeah, echoing what Dewan said, obviously it's Free Palestine. You don't really know a lot about me, so I just wanted to, a lot of stuff was said by a councilwoman who's not here this week, unfortunately, but my grandparents are Polish. They were in Poland during the Nazi invasion and occupation. And what they witnessed is pretty awful, okay? They witnessed the massacre of their entire family, their home being taken, all their property being taken, being shuffled between ghettos and concentration camps. And a question to all of you, what do you think my grandparents did? Do you think they rolled over and took oppression? They watched all their family being massacred? No, they fought back. I have letters from my grandmother talking about killing Nazis, okay? My grandfather was in the underground resistance in Poland. So it's absurd to me to think that a people who are being massacred and annihilated don't have the innate right to stand up. And in fact, I think it's the most beautiful thing on the world to see an oppressed people struggle for liberation. So I fully support all the actions of Palestinians as they resist annihilation. And I can't fathom why anybody in this council would vote to show solidarity with the state of Israel as they massacre 3,000 children in 3 weeks. Do y'all support child killers? Like, that's the equivalent of 300 or 400 Akron children dying in the span of 3 weeks. If 300 or 400 Akron children died in 3 weeks, would you pass a resolution supporting the killer of those children? It's absurd. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves, all right? So do as Dewan said, pass a better resolution condemning Israel, the state of Israel, which again, this is not about anti-Semitism. That's a logical fallacy. It's about Zionism and the belief that somehow because we don't like people, we can exterminate them. It's absurd. I think it also gets to maybe a deeper problem. I think the problem isn't that you're ill-informed, it's that you see people rising up all over the world, right? And I think a part of y'all are afraid that you see the people of Palestine not accepting the oppression that they've been doled out to. Dewan made the connection between Israel training Akron's police force and police all over the country. So I think a part of you are afraid, if Palestinians resist oppression and annihilation, and they will liberate themselves, and Israel will be swept into the dustbin of history. I think when that happens, y'all know that that'll set off sparks, around the world, and liberation and freedom struggles all over the world will be energized from that. And I think that scares a lot of you, to be quite honest, because you witnessed over the last couple of years what's happened in Akron, and I think you're deeply afraid of the people here.
Thank you, Nick. Is Gregory Levy here?
Hey everybody, I'm a lifelong Akron resident, born in Joy Park, went to Garfield, all that good stuff, but I got some words. I'm here to voice my displeasure with the anti-Palestinian statement released by this council on October 13th. Historical context is needed. The history of the United States parallels the recently constructed state of Israel. It's a Western settler state that is established on land that was rightly inhabited by an indigenous population that has lived in the region since antiquity. In the United States, to secure the land, genocide was applied to eliminate the ability of indigenous peoples to live in their ancestral homelands. Alongside this process, Africans like my ancestors were brought here and terrorized and exploited in order to secure the success of settler colonialism, and the modern capitalist state was born. Israel is also a settler state. It was resettled. It resettles Westerners in West Asia. The settlers are then given legal superiority and allowed to subjugate the indigenous population and turn their ancestral homelands into police states where they can be killed openly, and their suffering portrayed as normal and inevitable. If I were to ask anyone where they would stand in times of moral catastrophe like the genocide of Jewish people by the fascists of Germany, or the ugly centuries of terrorism inflicted on African diaspora, people believe that they would stand with the unjustly abused. Please provide clarity. This is a time where this claim is proven. When Jewish people needed asylum in the 30s, they were turned away. When South Africans struggled to end apartheid in the US, the government defended the settlers, et cetera, et cetera. I'm here to stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people. It is the Palestinian people who are forced to live in a concentration camp called Gaza. It's our tax dollars that support the apartheid regime in the state of Israel, and we beg their pardon for the terror that we have imposed. To the city council, let it be known. Why are you supporting an apartheid state? I'm asking you to do the right thing, tear up that statement, and construct a statement that unites with the spirit of the American people, of the people from Akron. I'm from Akron. I don't understand how I could possibly elect especially black leadership that would get here and not understand that our community does not, never has supported apartheid. Malcolm X would turn over in his grave. Martin Luther King would turn over in his grave, and you are going directly against the best of our ancestral leadership, and it is completely unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Ebony Brown. Christina.
"3,457 Palestinian children have been killed in Gaza in the past 3 weeks. That's one child murdered every 10 minutes. At least 8,306 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since October 7th. Over 40% of Palestinians killed are children. These numbers come from the Ministry of Health in Gaza. They only account for people admitted to hospitals, and an estimated 1,050 children are now reported missing, indicating that the actual death toll is much higher. The blood of these Palestinians, these children, is on the hands of apartheid Israel, its supporters, and on the hands of anyone who is not doing everything in their power to call for an end to the siege in Gaza. The blood of these children is on the hands of Akron City Council and will be until you acknowledge the genocide of Palestinians. You cannot claim to be pro-peace if you cannot call for an end to the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. You cannot claim to care about the people of Akron if you do not acknowledge the Palestinian population among us who are currently experiencing so much loss and pain, who are experiencing the effects of racism and Islamophobia, and are fearful of being violently targeted. I was hoping to direct the next part of my comment to Nancy Holland, who unfortunately was unable to show her face today. Nancy, if you're watching this from home, I heard your comment from a couple weeks ago. Your fear for what's at stake for Europe, your Marine son, the end of the world, etc., is a selfish and narrow-sighted position that ignores the reality that one side certainly is suffering more than the other. Israel is a wealthy, powerful, settler colonial capitalist empire that has a fully fledged army, navy, and air force that it uses to colonize and ethnically cleanse an entire population. It is fueled by the world's biggest imperialist superpowers, including the United States. Israel has killed millions of people and displaced millions more since its founding. Israel caged 2 million Palestinians into a small strip of land after it wiped out their towns and villages. Segregation and dehumanization of Palestinians living in Israel is built into their laws. On October 7th, Israel saw an oppressed people seeking their liberation. What Palestinian civilians are facing now is punishment for the desire for freedom, a devastating continuation of suffering that they have been experiencing for years at the hands of Israel. Nancy, your comment also ignores the prospective Jewish people throughout the world and right here in this room who oppose Zionism and the genocide that apartheid Israel is committing. It's silly that you even need to be told this, but anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. The people in this room speaking out for a free Palestine do so in solidarity with those who are oppressed. The people here advocating for the Palestinian people are the ones who would be doing the very same for Jewish people during the Holocaust. Would you be here? It's so easy for Akron City Council to claim that they're for peace, that they're anti-racist, that they would do what is in their power to end genocide. This is your chance to prove that. Acknowledge the genocide of the Palestinians, cut ties with Kiryat Akron, cut contracts with apartheid businesses, and demilitarize Akron police.
Thank you, Christina. Benjamin Gifford. We have people in the hallway, so that's why it's really important that you refrain from clapping. Benjamin Gifford, we want to give everyone an opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ben Gifford. I live in Ward 4. I'm co-chair of Akron DSA. I'm here tonight because of this body's inability to recognize and condemn the ongoing attempt to commit genocide against the Palestinian people by the State of Israel. This body was swift to condemn Hamas, but has it ever supported Palestine? During the nonviolent protests of the Great March of Return in 2018 and 2019, some 223 Palestinian protesters were killed by Israelis. More than 13,000 Palestinians were wounded, the majority severely. There's an Israeli sniper who proudly claimed he shot out the knees of more than 40 Palestinians in one day. Did you make any resolutions condemning this? And would you condemn it now? I'm also here tonight in part because of the insensitive comments made by Councilwoman Holland last week. She dismissed the concerns of her constituents. She insulted their intelligence. She made attempts at gatekeeping. No, you do not need a history degree or be a lawyer to recognize genocide as it's occurring. And she slandered their character by calling their comments anti-Semitic. It is not anti-Semitic to criticize Israel, and in fact, we in the United States are particularly qualified to do so, given the immense amount of spending we make to support Israel. Around $4 billion annually, about $118 million from Ohio alone. While our schools are struggling, while our infrastructure is crumbling, while our housing costs are soaring, and while our wages are stagnating, we are funding apartheid, and we are aiding in genocide. Benjamin Netanyahu said, we, the Israelis, are the people of light, and they, the Palestinians, are the people of darkness. Former Israeli ambassador to UN, Dan Gillerman, called Palestinians, quote, horrible, inhuman animals. Israel does not recognize Palestinians as a nation, and these are all elements of genocide. And then there's the death toll. Since October 7th, Israel has killed more than 8,000 Palestinians in Gaza, including more than 3,000 children. They've targeted hospitals, ambulances, schools, journalists, civilian vehicles fleeing Gaza, and cultural sites, including the third oldest church in the world, in a barbaric form of collective punishment. They make excuses for why it must be this way, but there's no justification. These are war crimes that violate international law. The U.S. is complicit, and you have made Akron complicit thus far. We urge Council recognize the decades-long plight of Palestinians and support them in their demands, which are an immediate and lasting ceasefire, ending the siege of Gaza, ending all aid to the State of Israel, holding Israel accountable for its war crimes, and the full decolonization of all of historic Palestine, including Gaza, the West Bank, and territory within the State of Israel. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ben. Andrew?
I am here tonight to denounce the gross anti-Palestinian and anti-Arab racism exhibited by City Council in recent weeks and its attempts to slander citizens speaking out against genocide as anti-Semitic. From its inception, the Israeli state has been founded upon the mass suffering of Palestinians. For 75 years, the Israeli state has carried out a policy of ethnic cleansing and forcible displacement against Palestinians throughout Palestine. For 75 years, the Israeli state refuses to recognize the right of all Palestinian refugees to return to their ancestral homes, a right that is enshrined in international law. For 56 years, each and every Palestinian living in the territories, now known as the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, have suffered under Israeli military occupation. Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza have no political rights, no access to political redress, no freedom of movement, and are constantly policed, surveilled, and assaulted by the Israeli state despite having committed no crime other than existing as a Palestinian. For over 15 years, the Israeli state has subjected the Gaza Strip to a complete siege by land, air, and sea, enacting a deliberate policy of impoverishment, malnutrition, and de-development. Palestinians are forcibly disallowed from leaving this open-air prison, and Palestinians who have protested peacefully and unarmed at the Gaza fence have been murdered and shot dead by Israeli snipers. Any analysis of the events in Palestine and Israel since October 7th that does not correctly identify these events as the direct result of 75 years of open warfare against the Palestinian people by Israel is historically illiterate. Any analysis of the ongoing assault on Gaza that does not correctly identify it as an attempted genocide and the latest iteration of Israeli crimes against the Palestinian people is willfully ignorant. I demand that Council heed the demands of Palestinians in this moment. They include an immediate and lasting ceasefire in Gaza and across Palestine, an end to the siege of the Gaza Strip, an end to all aid from the United States to the State of Israel as sanction for Israel's policies of colonialism, ethnic cleansing, and apartheid, and lastly, holding all relevant Israeli actors responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity against the Palestinian people. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Don Shockey.
My name is Don Shockey. I'm 68 years old, and I'm classified as disabled. I've had the last basically week and a half has been a living nightmare for me. I've been outright disrespected, harassed, and threatened. Now, when you call the police department to file a report, you can't, they'll say, well, we'll mail it to you. I have yet to see a report from the police department. There's no sense of seniors being treated and disrespected in any form. There's no sense in that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Shockey, I'll be more than happy to help you after the meeting, okay? Mano, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that right or wrong. Sorry.
Hey, Council. Hey, Council. I'm Mano Weaver. You pronounced it right. Thank you. I'm a Ward 1 resident. I am just here to say, I'll keep it short, that just a Raz Segal, which is a Jewish scholar in Jewish Currents, calls what Israel is doing a textbook case of genocide. So I just want to say that, Council, when you support Israel, that's what you support. You support genocide. You support the killing of 3,000 plus children. You have the blood on your hands of Palestinians all over Gaza, in the West Bank, everywhere. And you do that, and I say that to everyone else here, you do that because you always will support power. You do not support people, you support power. That's why you have the blood on your hands of Jalen Walker. That's why APD still does not wear name tags. That's why we still have ties with Korea Akron. Cut those ties. Cut all ties with apartheid businesses. Acknowledge the genocide of Palestinians and abolish the APD.
Thank you, Mano. Ashley White. Eric Garrett II. Is Ashley White or Eric Garrett II? Okay, you can approach the podium. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Eric Garrett II. I'm 22 years old and the director of Beyond Expectations Barber College, Youngstown. My question is, why is the city reneging on reimbursement for the students of BEBC when we have a 98% graduation rate, 92% licensure rate, and 100% job placement rate? The agreement was an investment to our community by supporting and encouraging young men and women to strive for success despite their circumstances. The reimbursement process for the funds taken from the Barber College were broken down into thirds, totaling $15,000. The first $5,000 was provided by BEBC. The second $5,000 was provided by the students through community service events like free haircuts throughout the city and annual back-to-school events at the barber school. On top of that, the students must maintain a 90% attendance and 80% academics, which they have done. The third $5,000 was supposed to be released from the city, which was denied. Release the funds to the students. They have done the work. The city needs to set an example by keeping their word and honoring their agreement with the students. I yield my time.
Thank you, Eric. Is Daniel Williams here?
Perception. Perception is supposed to be how something's viewed. Unfortunately, sometimes perception is about how you want something to look. Follow me, if you will. Example 1. We have Beyond Expectations, who was denied funding that they were promised because of a conflict of interest. Although the candidate has not been sworn in, we've been receiving the funds for about 4 years now, yet apparently there's a conflict of interest. Example 2, we have Somerville Funeral Home, where the current deputy mayor and president of council, this council, serve. They receive funds for indigent burials. Those are for people who cannot afford to bury their loved ones. Yet there's no conflict. I ask you, council, what's the difference? How is one a conflict and one is not? Someone who is not on city council, someone who is. Someone who's been receiving funds for almost a decade, if not longer. All of this money comes from taxpayers. Label the fund whatever you want. Label the pot whatever you want. Tax money. That's where this comes from. You can't straddle the fence. You can't play both sides. It's uncomfortable. You have to pick a side. My question is, what side will you all choose? Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Is Michelle Wright available? In chambers or in the hallway?
Hi, my name is Michelle Wright. I'm here to talk about my children that was, I'm gonna use the word abducted by CPS unlawfully, violating all of my due processes. My question is to the council is, do you support children? And what is oversight measures are in place to ensure that the services provided in the Juvenile Justice Center comply with due process rights for all individuals involved, if I said that right. 2, can you provide information on any recent audits, inspections, or assessments conducted to, I can't even say that word. I'm gonna skip it. The effectiveness and, I can't say this word, ADHERENCE, 2, due process within the Juvenile Justice Center. 3, what steps are being taken or planned to address any identified issues or violations of the due process in the Juvenile Justice Center? What measures or initiatives are in place to address reports or complaints of gang stalking within our community, and how can residents seek assistance or report incidents related to issues? Number 2 on this one. Has City Council collaborated with local law enforcement agencies and community organizations to develop awareness campaigns or education programs aimed at preventing gang stalking and supporting victims? If so, what resources and support are available to residents who may be affected by this? I'm talking about this because my children was kidnapped by CPS. Literally, I was lowered to the Juvenile Justice Center. They wouldn't let me go, not unless I gave my children's location. I gave them my children's location. I still went to jail for 20 days, and now I can't find my kids. Thank you.
Jill, thank you for sharing. And if you could stay after the meeting, we'll see what we can do to help, okay? David Garan.
David Garan. Resolution number 289-2023, offered by Mayor Horgan and Fusco, expressing sympathy for Israel, passed unanimously by this council on October 16th, was poorly crafted, as I stated last week. Being that it was crafted by the Mayor Horgan and Fusco, it's no wonder it was poorly written. Additionally, I would argue that this council needs to keep in mind that you represent the people in your wards, or as the at-large people, the entire city. Resolutions like this one need to express the will of the people of Akron, not your own personal views. So take that into account, any type of resolution in the future, to not express your own views. You need to express the views of Akron. Unlike Mayor Horgan and Mr. Fusco, who only represent donors such as the Akron Realtors Association and now Fairmont Properties in Summa. I'm going to skip that. Second, the resolution ought to be passed tonight declaring the U.S. Congress not appropriate any money to Ukraine for war, and additionally, any money to Israel for war. That's the type of resolution that you should pass tonight. And you can just suspend your rules like you do all the time. Do it after our public comment period. Pass that resolution. You need to stop Congress from putting more money into the military. We are a hegemonic country. We are an empire, and we continue to support militaries for chaos purposes because we want to control the world. We are the greatest purveyor of violence in the world, supplying weapons and warcraft. Lastly, I made an observation tonight. Mr. Fusco left the council chamber when Fairmont and Summa left the room. And then Mr. Fusco also almost missed the vote because he was talking to Fairmont and SUMA. Again, this council should tonight support a resolution because we need to stop the Congress because they're going to go right ahead and try to pass a resolution to pass appropriate money, our money, to continue killing people. You need to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Charlie Pruitt.
I'm going to be yielding my time to Ebony Brown, who hasn't gone yet and I think got skipped over, actually.
I disgrace myself speaking to you. This council has spoken about having no influence on national politics and therefore signed a resolution to quote Medicare for all and a sympathetic letter to Israel and have no resolution on the genocide on Palestine. But to condemn Hamas is something that should be levied at every level of this country, from the President of the United States to this small city. I cannot trust you with anything when I cannot trust you can take a stance against genocide. But this council so callously disregards the sanctity of life, so I will callously levy the numbers at you. Last week, Nancy Holland called us all dumb propagandists and that we do not know the history of Palestine. So allow me to inform you. Gaza is a 25-mile by 5-mile strip of land that has seen over 6,000 bombs in 1 week. That is more bombs that has been dropped over the course of a year in Ukraine, more bombs than we have dropped on Afghanistan in the first year of the Afghanistan war. Here's the difference. Afghanistan and Ukraine are not the same size as Gaza. Gaza is 5 miles by 25 miles. That is less than a marathon long. To do the math, that is 24 bombs per square mile in 1 week. Gaza is the most densely populated strip of land on the planet. Why? Because during the Nakba, about 250,000 people were pushed out of their homes and forced into an open-air concentration camp. Last week, I came with the numbers of 4,000 Gazans dead. This week, it is 8,000. You do not see these numbers of mass deaths at this rate in any other situation apart from genocide. Roughly one child dead in every 10 minutes. Likely an undercount considering most people are still under rubble. But you do not care about this loss of life. So let's talk about things that we have shown to care in the past. Well, what about all of the violence against buildings? Do you remember how much smoke you had in 2020 for the violence against buildings? The oldest church on the earth destroyed. One of the oldest Christian hospitals, they bombed hospitals. And think of the corner stores. Over 2 million people in Gaza and half of them homeless. As white people,
I'm sorry, I was going to allow you to wrap up your last minute, but your time is up.
I thought I would get 6 minutes.
No. It's only 3 minutes per person, to be fair.
But
we don't yield time. Okay, so no one else was able to gain from yielding time. So your time is up, and we're going to bring up Peter. We're going to give Peter an opportunity for his 3 minutes. Is Peter here with us? Janos?
Janos. I am half Hungarian and half Chinese, and I have a master's degree in history from Cleveland State University. I studied under Dr. Walter Hickson at the University of Akron for my undergraduate. And I stand here for the Palestinians. And why do I do this? It's because my people were occupied. The Hungarians were occupied by the Ottomans, by the Nazis, by the Austrians, and the Chinese. On my other side of the family, they were occupied by the Japanese. They still deny it, last I checked. And now here we are in 2023 with the City Council of Akron voting unanimously for a resolution in support of apartheid Israel in solidarity with an apartheid state doing genocide. And you claim that we are ahistorical, we don't know our stuff. I just cited my degrees, I know my research. I will gladly put that up against Shamus Malik's little law degree or whatever. I would gladly put that up against anybody who claims that we don't know our history. In fact, Shamus Malik, you wrote issue 10, did you not? You wrote the issue 10 to regulate the police, to hold them accountable. And now here you are, not regulating their trainers. You are not regulating their trainers, and therefore you will make the Akron police more violent. They will kill more people, and they will make doing that with Israel's training. We already saw this with Cop City down in Georgia, and they're already doing that in Colorado too. The people of Akron will stand up against occupation. We will say no to Lay's, HP, Gatorade, any sort of Israeli companies. Can the City Council of Akron say the same?
Thanos, thank you. Larry Stephen. Larry Stephen. Samir.
Thank you. That's Samer, actually.
Thank you.
Samer, the human animal, the child of darkness, the Palestinian American who lives in Akron, son of a mother from Bethlehem, speaking tonight on behalf of the 3,457 children killed in 3 weeks. I am quite possibly the only one in this room who was reported as a journalist from Gaza. In August 2nd of 2014, I was walking down the streets of Shuja'iyya, a village that is currently leveled to the ground in eastern Gaza. And I met a young man, 17 years old. His name was Ala Balata. I met him 2 days after his entire family was wiped out by an Israeli tank shell on July 29th, 2014. And I met him as he was scraping the flesh of his family off the wall. I know what genocide looks like. And yet I'm here to tell you that on October 7th, the first person I called was a friend of mine in Israel who refused to serve in the Israeli military because he did not want to occupy my people. And this friend of mine, Haggai, spent 2 years in prison for that. When I met Ala, and he realized who I was and where I came from, he asked me, he said, in a state of shock, no doubt. You could see, I don't know if anyone has seen a person who has gone through that kind of trauma. They don't process it for a while. But Ala looked at me with his 17-year-old eyes, and he said to me, why? Why do Americans support this? And I think today, I pray to God that Ala is still alive. I really do. But the chances of him being dead are too high, dear Council of Akron. And you must condemn what is being done with our tax dollars today. And you must do it not just because it's the right thing. You must do it because it is written into your DNA as a city. Down the street, there is a John Brown house. Down the street, there is a John Brown house. And 20 years after John Brown was hanged by our federal government, Frederick Douglass stood in front of a crowd and he said, they could kill him, but they could not answer him. Answer the 3,457 children in Gaza. Answer them. stand up for what's right. Free Palestine.
Thank you. Ramallah. Ramallah, or we're going to move to the next person. Harrison Mills.
I'm disappointed that Ms. Holland was not, couldn't bother to be here tonight, so I hope these comments can be relayed to her. When Nancy Holland said, "I will not tolerate anti-Semitism masquerading as something else," I'd like to know what she believes this anti-Semitism is masquerading as. To me, it's very bold and paternalistic to accuse a Jewish person speaking up for Palestinian human rights as anti-Semitic. Being Jewish myself, I don't consent to that accusation being weaponized against citizens who openly recognize an ethnic cleansing campaign for what it is. Nancy Holland also had the audacity to refer to this public speaker as, quote, someone who probably can't give her the timeline of the creation of the Jewish state of Israel. I was really blown away by the entitlement here, but if we want to talk about timelines, I'd like to pose the same question to Nancy Holland. And I'll be looking forward to specific mention of the Nakba, during which 900,000 Palestinians were forcibly expelled from what settlers referred to as Israel, the same settlers who destroyed over 500 Palestinian villages. I'm also eager to hear Nancy's analysis of how the Nakba never actually ended, but slowly morphed over 75 years into various forms of settler expansion, ethnic cleansing, and crimes against humanity. I also wonder what insights Nancy Holland can offer us on how this genocidal rhetoric directly resulted in Wadia al-Fayoumi, a 6-year-old Palestinian boy, being stabbed to death 26 times, whose mother was stabbed over a dozen times by their landlord as he was screaming, "You Muslims must die." Nancy Holland's irresponsible conflation of anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism would be childish if not directly and causally linked to the ongoing atrocities that Palestinians have been subjected to since 1948. I don't consent to my Judaism being weaponized against the Palestinian people for the genocidal goals of a US-funded, fully militarized ethno-state. I don't consent to the Nancy Hollands of the world selling white supremacy masquerading as justice. Thank you for nothing.
Thank you. And again, I'm going to ask that you refrain because we're missing people in the hallway. They cannot hear their names being called. Ramallah, I'm going to call again for the second time.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I have wanted to come to City Council for a little bit now. I already know about your nonsense just because of my experience with Jalen Walker, protesting, watching the peaceful protests happen, watching all of you, but specifically Shamus, voice condemnation for peaceful protesters that were mass arrested in the summer of 2022 and then again in April of 2023. Thank you. I just want to make it clear that a lot of people came here today to tell Nancy Holland that she is a white supremacist spewing absolute garbage nonsense. I gotta say though, as a Palestinian who's only seen Zionist propaganda, not even Jewish, I know many Jewish people who are anti-Zionism, have not seen any of them represented, but all of the Zionist representation I've seen, and I show up here and I get shushed and shooed out of the room. How many Palestinians have spoken? How many Palestinians have you talked with? How many do you know? I transcribed 2 minutes of that Nancy Holland video just to see the words in front of me. It was so incomprehensible that I got whiplash. I don't understand her inserting her Marine son. If she had to walk around and carry her Marine son and his body parts in a shopping bag, maybe she'd feel a little different. Maybe she'd feel a little more for Gaza. I don't understand decorum. I don't understand having to sit here and beg you guys to condemn Israel. Did you see Richmond, California's resolution? How many times they said apartheid? How many times they said Palestine? how many times they talked about needing to end the occupation, and yours is what? Protect the Jewish population. And the rest? And then you passed it as an emergency resolution, not even giving us, your community, a chance to push back against it. And I look at you all, and you're dead in the eyes. You're dead in the eyes. You don't care. You don't care. And I have to sit here while thousands and thousands of my people are being cleansed off the map as we speak. And you all sit here and worry about decorum in the city. Akron is a microcosm of occupation. Akron is exactly what occupation looks like. Shamas, Muslim, as a Muslim, I'm going to talk to you specifically, touting how much you love Ramadan and you love the Eid and you love fasting. Do you know you're being used as a DEI token? Do you know that? And that you love it. That you love it. Because if you cared about Islam, you would have talked about the 40 religious institutions in Gaza alone, including churches, but many mosques that have been completely burnt down, completely exploded. Completely exploded. Can you look at me as I'm talking with you, or are you not taking this seriously? Free Palestine. I will be back for Nancy. Thank you. Solidarity, Free Palestine.
Again, I'm going to ask that you refrain from clapping. Lillian Barnes, who's in the hallway, so that she too has an opportunity to speak.
Wow. Assalamu alaikum. Shamus, I'm disappointed that you have not been speaking about your own people who is being killed. I'm discouraged about how Nancy is not here. I had sent all of you guys an email about Palestine. I practice Islam. It's a beautiful religion, beautiful. My kids are Muslim, born Muslim. For you not to stand for your people is shameless. Stop letting these politics blow up in your head. Stop listening to the people that is not supporting you. You're Muslim. Now, since Nancy's not here and I can't not address her personally because you know how I am, I'm just gonna speak on what happened over this weekend. On October 27th, Lawton Community Center, once again, 4 teens was beaten by APD as well as arrested. Names and badge numbers: 1494, Joshua Gitz, one of the officers who killed Jalen Walker. 1403, Wallace Little, part of Tango 22 APD gang. 1522, Devin Jackson. 1503, Clyde Cox. 1214, Michael Stanner. 1470, DeAndre Holland. 1521, Thomas Phillips, who beat Jordan Eli in July 23. 1514, Warren Sprague beating Jordan 23. Thaddeus Nutt in 2023, Justice for Jalen protesters in 2022. 1441, Devin Ray, teenager Xavier Mullen died in a cruiser in August in 2017. Sarah, I don't know her last name, but her badge number is 1609. Officers walked up to a group of teens in a public area and told them to leave. When the teens did not immediately leave, the officers rushed. The group tackled them, punched them multiple times. I'm seeing this on Facebook once again, and held 4 teens, including 3 minors, over the weekend on charges of rioting and resisting arrest. One of these officers killed Jalen Walker. Let's keep that in mind. When are we going to end this stuff? Another killed Xavier Mamili in 2017. Several more have a history of beating Sullivans. When will this once again end? When are you guys going to allow the Citizens Review Board, which we have voted for, do their fucking jobs? When are y'all going to do that? We voted. We have voted. Fesco, Librado, you came up to me crying about my daggone daughter. I did not forget. I just have been busy taking care of my autistic child, and it was like, oh, she's whining. I said, and then you sit up there and say, well, it was a meeting. It was towards the end of the meeting, and I said, Ed, you will be all right. My kids have disabilities.
Lily,
I'm sorry.
So sorry, but your time is up. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
Free Palestine.
Is Adam
Stop
here?
harassing my children.
Lilia.
I'm having a shirt made for you soon.
Is Adam here? We want to be able to give everyone an opportunity. Is Jay here?
Yes. All right, thank you. My name is Jay Salisbury. It's a little different topic, but I started a nonprofit called the Carver Society. This is in regards to skateboarding. The city of Akron, a little over 20 years ago, built the Akron Skate Park over by the Rubber Bowl at the Akron Fulton Airport. There's rumors going around that has been sold and will soon be torn down. We'd just like to get some clarity as to the future of that skate park. But the purpose of the nonprofit, the Carver Society, is to raise awareness and support that we need an indoor skate park facility for our community. Akron has 190,000 residents. Of those residents, roughly 5,000 are active skateboarders. And then if you include those that ride scooters, bicycles, inline skates, rollerblades, on and on, you're talking about 10,000 or more of our residents that have no place to go when it's dark, cold, rainy, snowy, icy outside. The outdoor skate parks are only available when the weather's permitting, which makes it about half the year for this type of region for Ohio. So we're asking the city to provide an indoor skate park facility for our community to be able to use all year round. Skateboarding is an Olympic sport now. We should have a facility for those training purposes. This is going to be done with a combination of community support. We'd like to ask for the city and the Department of Parks and Rec to help. We're also going to be applying for grants and corporate sponsorships to help. So together we can get it done. Community feedback has been great over the past year. I've been out doing a grassroots marketing campaign, going to the skate parks myself, introducing and gathering support and feedback. You can go to the website, thecarversociety.org, and read the feedback from the community members. It's all been positive and great. We'd like some contacts and follow-up information after the meeting, where to go from here. I have reached out to a couple folks via email and social media and haven't really gotten any responses over the past year or so. So again, my name is Jay with the Carver Society, thecarversociety.org. You can follow us on social media at the Carver Society. And just looking for feedback and support and trying to get something so we have somewhere to go all year round, not just half the year. So again, thank you for your time.
Jay, thank you, and for bringing that to our attention. We do have 3 individuals online who would wish to participate. Is Gabe Cook online with us?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so obviously I'm gonna echo what literally everybody else has said. Fuck APD, free Palestine. You all constantly say that there's nothing you could do. You know full well that you can acknowledge the genocide of Palestinians and vow protection for Palestinian Akronites. You know full well that you could cut ties with Kiryat Ekron, our colonized sister city. You know full well that you could cut contracts with apartheid businesses that we are in contract with, including Kolu, Targetech, CAT, HP, and Motorola. And you know full well that you can take so many steps to demilitarize Akron Police Department, which has proliferated the exact same conditions that are in Israel here in Akron for Akron's Black residents. So I wanted to illustrate this, just like I did the other week, by talking about what happened on Friday, October 27th, behind Lawton Community Center. 4 teenagers were asked to leave just for being there, and then when they did not immediately comply, were beaten and then taken into custody and held over the weekend in Summit County Jail. We are allowed to condemn death as a generalized thing, but not ever mention the root of it. We could be sad endlessly till the end of time about bombs, but not ever seek out who is funding and shipping them. We can wring our hands about youth violence and poor community police relations, but not ever ever point out the reasons the police have quote unquote poor relations with Akron's Black community. We can be sad about the teenagers who were tackled, punched in the face, held down in the grass, and then kidnapped and held over the weekend to heal from their injuries in a dirty cement box, but never mention the reason why this happened is that our police force is filled with literal murderers, literal white supremacists. Why did those teens yell at the officers? Maybe it was because those officers were ordering them to leave a public park as if they were dogs and couldn't possibly have a reason to be there. Maybe because one of the teens recognized Officer Sprague and Officer Phillips, who beat the shit out of Jordan Eli in a parking lot this summer and beat protesters on video last summer. Maybe they recognized Wallace Little, who's a member of the APD Tango 22 gang. Maybe they couldn't help but recognize Joshua fucking Getz, who was one of the people who killed Jalen Walker last year over a broken taillight. Maybe those teens are made to know day in and day out that they are not welcome on their own land, just as Palestinians are made to know that they are not welcome on their own land. Maybe every day those teens walk past 7 flock cameras on their way to school and get kicked out of public parks by 12 officers with badges shaped like those that slave catchers wore, and can't help but know that these officers and this white supremacist force is their enemy. Do you understand that that American police train in Israel, that speaking support for Palestine is literally banned in workplaces and schools across the country? Did you know that if you dare to speak in support of Palestine, you'll get called anti-Semitic by Nancy Holland, and if you speak in support of demilitarizing Akron's police, you'll get called an out-of-state agitator and a rioter by Dan Horrigan? Did you know that 100 of us who protested Jalen
Gabe, I'm
Walker's
so
murder
sorry,
last
but
year
your time is up. I'm so sorry. Thank you for sharing those points.
Free Palestine.
Is Trey online with us? Trey?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
We ready? Cool.
Yep, you can begin.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Trey. I'm from Ward 1. Hello, Nancy. First, I want to express gratitude to those that are speaking regarding the rezoning of the Suman developments, or for those proposed Suman developments. Your grievances have been heard, and I feel your struggle to hear tonight. Now I'm going to keep my piece short and sweet, as I know others have had way more to say than I ever could. And I will not claim to be an expert regarding the history of Israel and Palestine. That said, it is brazenly apparent to me that the violence committed, both in the past couple weeks and beyond, comes overwhelmingly from one side. Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people must be condemned by our elected officials. And that's you. I've seen our officials perpetuate false information at the expense of Palestinians. And I've seen our officials disregard critiques of Israel and label them as anti-Semites, even when they are Jewish themselves. Disgusting. And I've seen our officials submit unwavering support to this settler apartheid state in terms of government contracts, military aid, etc., etc., etc. That's you too. I want my city council, especially my ward representative, Nancy Holland, who is noticeably absent, to publicly condemn the slaughter of Native peoples, to cut ties with the village of Kiryat Akron, to cease engaging in contracts with Israeli companies, and to commit to a demilitarization of our own police force in solidarity, and to do this through a better resolution than what was passed. That's you. The only way for you to be on the right side of this conflict is to acknowledge what's happening, and what's happening is genocide. And to act like this is a both sides thing, that's complacency and racism, plain and simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Trey. James Quinn, can you hear us? James Quinn?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so can I start? So in the past week, so there's been a lot of events. There's been another instance of police brutality in Akron, this time involving a large group of officers brutalizing a group of young teens. And yet, while certain videos are circulating on social media, the news is very silent about this. So hopefully people bringing it up to social media, or hopefully people bringing it up on city council will get the news to talk about it a little bit. Additionally, I would like to talk about the events of city council the past couple of weeks, and also just like at the same time, the events that have been going on in Palestine. So over the weekend in the village of Sawiya, there was a murder of Bilal Saleh by Israeli settlers. The total deaths caused by Israeli settlers, not the IDF, Israeli settlers, is about 7 now in the West Bank, while the total deaths caused by the IDF is well over 100. In Gaza, Gaza Strip specifically, the total deaths is well over 8,000. Basic necessities have been stripped away from people living inside the strip for over 2 weeks now, with consistent telecommunications access getting removed by Israeli bombing over the weekend. Areas immediately near hospitals and schools have been bombed where people have been sheltering. Civilians have been directly targeted in some kind of collective punishment. All of this constitutes a war crime. And yet, instead of acknowledging the need for a ceasefire, instead of demanding an end to genocide, to demand the resumption of human aid to citizens of Palestine, and acknowledge that the way to end this conflict is to end the occupation, what does the city do? Declares that they stand exclusively with Israel, that they stand for more war, and that this bombardment and occupation is okay by them, while Palestinian children suffocate under the rubble of their homes. We are currently on a precipice looking out over a landscape that we haven't really been to since 9/11, when we as a country decided that we didn't care how many terrorists and thugs, as you so eloquently stated during your remarks a couple weeks ago, had to die for our vengeance to be sated. Did we learn nothing from those mistakes? Or is more war and more vengeance the answer? I ask you to pass a declaration calling for a ceasefire and a resumption of the much needed humanitarian aid and to acknowledge the genocide and apartheid ongoing in Palestine. I ask you to end our partnership with our sister city, Kiryat Ekron. I ask that you end the security partnership with Israel and our local police force. Also, I've added some videos and images into record of Gaza. I was very particular when I chose these. I didn't want to include anything with gore. But while these are incredibly sad, they do demonstrate a lot of the conditions that are ongoing in Gaza right now. I've included clips of bread lines. I've included clips of the UNRWA schools that people are staying in and the extent of what they look like, as well as I've included clips of like how people are powering their phones through like car batteries that they've had to scavenge from cars. I ask that all of council please watch them, as this is what standing with Israel means.
Thank you, James. That concludes our public comment period for this evening. What is your name? What's the name? Ashley White, yes. So again, it's really important. Yes, Ashley, you are on my list. Sorry, I can't hear. I think, Ashley, turn your mic on, because I don't think it's on. We can't hardly hear you.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, can we start the time over?
Let's start again.
Okay. I want to start off by condemning the slanderous remarks of Nancy Holland last week, when people were coming in here condemning genocide, and she said that was anti-Semitic. I don't understand how that could be anti-Semitic, because genocide is not part of the Jewish identity. That's not something that Jews support. So it's not anti-Semitic to say, don't kill Palestinians. I think that the resolution just ignores Palestinians, and it doesn't consider the voice of the people in the city of Akron, all the people who've come out today and given their perspective and saying that we don't agree with this, we don't support this. It also endangers Palestinians by emboldening people who think that we don't care, and also endangers Muslim Americans all over the country. There was someone recently in Ohio, Oberlin, Ohio, who was hit by a car. A doctor was killed I think yesterday, who was stabbed 17 times. We all know the little boy who was killed, who was stabbed by his landlord, someone that he trusted. And nobody's condemning this. Nobody's saying, we don't stand with that. So that's something that we as a city could do. City is supposed to be a city of peace. I just think that, again, on Nancy Holland's fake rage and her explanation about this war going to Europe, as if that's the only thing we should care about if Europeans and Americans are going to get hurt. That's very disgraceful for the city of Akron and for all of the people who live here who are represented by her. Let's see. I think that we need to cut ties with Kiryat Akron. That's our apparently new sister city. I'm not sure when that happened because we used to have different sister cities. We need to stop sending police to Israel to be trained. And we need to, another thing that Nancy Holland said about the people here who she claims don't know the history of Palestine, even though we've been coming week by week telling people. And yet she claimed that this started on October 7th, so that doesn't make any sense. The fact that she was condemning news sources that she, I guess, she doesn't use Twitter. So we've heard about the bombing of the hospital, or the bombing of the hospital by Israel. And at first it was reported by Israel, then it was not Israel. Now the New York Times has said that it is. And so if you want next week's news today, maybe you can learn some media literacy and go on Twitter and find out what's actually happening. So I think that we, as a people, have to remember that there are people in this world right now, in Palestine, scared for their lives. They are going to churches and hospitals, trying to survive. They're going to mosques, praying to God not to be bombed, and Israel is dropping bombs on them. And we're supporting that. And we shouldn't. We should condemn that.
Ashley, thank you so much. I think that we've given everyone an opportunity to speak. Again, what is... Okay, yes, Jacob, please. You can approach the podium. You are on my list.
Okay, it's pretty tough for me to talk to you guys because you guys, I view at fault for a lot of trauma I've been facing recently from being assaulted by Officer Sprague. So yeah, we'll see what comes out. But I'm just like, honestly, just obviously disgusted by Nancy Holland and like her cowardice, because like everyone here, I saw a lot of people speak last week that came back to stand up for what they spoke about. That to me is bravery. I saw a city councilor say some stuff that was like, kind of like, I don't know, it just didn't make any sense to me. And she's not here, not even online virtually, like a couple other ones. But your actions, like I've already expressed this to a couple people, I think you guys are all sadistic, but your actions cause a lot of harm. You guys don't seem to care about the harm. And if you're not disturbed by the harm, then how are you reacting to it? Like, are you guys, that's like why I'm like, are y'all enjoying it? Like, yeah, and that's the other thing. Hello, Steve. I saw him rolling his eyes, like as we're talking about whole countries being carpet bombed. What if we did that to Akron? Like, what the, like, it's just confusing. But, like, I heard one of my fellow community members say a few months back, thank you for showing your true colors. Because, like, this is permanent record, as long as the internet keeps functioning. So keep putting out your truths, keep supporting genocide and putting it on record so that someone eventually can hold you guys accountable. Whether that's just us realizing who you guys are. Hi, I saw you at Papa Joe's the other day. It's just wild. Y'all are just pure evil. Shamus, I wish you weren't part of this too. I'm a graduate of Firestone. We walk the same halls. I'm in the old building too. Just really sad, because like I would have loved to gotten along with you and like work to make this a beautiful, beautiful space. That's what everyone is begging here for Palestinians and for people of Akron. We just want room to breathe, and y'all are bringing violence. And you just made it even more clear that you guys want this violence. You want a continuation of the American experiment, which is just a British experiment. And who sold the land to the Israelis? I want Nancy to answer that. Was it the British? Yeah. Stop supporting genocide.
Thank you, Jacob. That concludes our public comment period for this evening. We're now going to move into committee assignments, rules, Councilman Freeman. Public safety, Councilman Kamer.
2:15.
Budget and finance, Councilman Freeman.
3 p.m.
Parks and Rec, Councilman Lombardo.
145.
Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilwoman Mosley.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Freeman.
245.
Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I appreciate everybody coming down to share. A lot to take in today. First thing, I want to go back to the resolution that came through council that was taken lightly by some, where it asked us to audit our process and procedures so that we could become just a better council. Anybody that owns a business, anybody that's a part of a corporation understands that an audit of a department is a normal function if you want to be a healthy organization. This council has never been audited. I think today we heard about SUMA, we've heard about the resolution that we passed. We need to just take a look at our process and procedures because it's obvious that there's holes in what we do so that we can be better representatives for the constituents that we represent. Saying that, it was news to me, and I appreciate you sharing, that our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director had a resolution prepared. Maybe I missed the email, maybe you guys got it, but I never saw it. So I'm asking that the resolution that was prepared, thank you, by our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director, Ms. Tammy Tucker, come before council so that we can look at it and deliberate it and discuss it. And I think what we've heard from our constituents, give it serious consideration to pass it. I'd also like to, when George Floyd was murdered, Professor Brent Lee wondered what he could do to be a part of the process. And he started a class where he talked about the history of institutional racism. And he put it on the University of Akron. He thought maybe he'd get a few, maybe if he was lucky, 100 people. He got over 5,000 people that signed up for that class that wanted to be educated. They had to shut it down. I had colleagues that were representatives of other communities that took his class. This council, we need to engage the intellectual capital in this community so that just like Professor Brent Lee educated those who wanted to be educated about institutional racism, we have an opportunity to educate ourselves about this situation here. I also want to call on Reverend Beatty, Elder Beatty, I appreciate you. We need to reach out to our diverse houses of faith and have them come and speak and bring a resolution from the community, from their position. This council made a mistake. Hope you accept at least my apology. Now the thing is, where do we go from here? So my recommendation is, one, we hear the resolution that came from our DEI director. Why we didn't get it, I don't know. Two, we reach out to Professor Lee or others and ask if they can at least hold some community discussions. And three, that our houses of faith come forward so that we can speak on one accord moving forward. And then I want to speak about what happened at Lawton Street. Lawton Street is in Ward 4, that's my ward. I've spoken to 2 officers, and I spoke through text to one of the administrators at Bookto High School. I'm still getting information. But let me say this. When the altercation starts at a school, and they do their due diligence to address that issue, and parents come up to the school and say, we could finish this at Lawton Street, that is a problem. So this is why I'm even torn, and I said this before. Israel, Palestine, that's a real issue. Take this how you want, though. But as a black man living here in Akron, with the killing that's taking place in the black community, with young black children, and a resolution comes in for Palestine and Israel, which I know is a political statement. It's not going to affect them, and we don't do anything about what's happening here. That concerns me. And then when I find out that parents, knowing what's happening, we had a 17-year-old shot and killed up at Romick Road this weekend. Why would you tell your children we could finish this out at Lawton Street? Why? To get them murdered. So folks, we got problems down here, real problems in the city. And I'm going to say this about this council again. We have an opportunity to put resources. There's discussions taking place throughout this city about what to do about youth violence. We need to put resources behind it. We need to talk to the school board and put together a plan so that we're engaging everybody that has a role in this. And those of you, I appreciate your concern about Palestine, but we got 14, 15, 16-year-old children dying in the street whose parents are saying we could settle this on the street. That is a problem. That is a problem. Now, I'm not justifying what the police did, but that is a problem. And anybody that has more information that wants to speak, you know I'm willing to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? I see Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to be brief. I apologize for not being there in person this evening. I too support a ceasefire. There's just so much about the history between Israel and the Palestinians. I don't think that we as a council even know. I've been educated. I've read through the emails from Ms. Tucker. I've read through, the different statements from individuals in Congress. A ceasefire is not just to protect the Palestinian people, it's to protect the Israeli people as well. And I think people are missing the point. We're talking about babies on both sides that are being slaughtered. I've seen the videos. Some people may not appreciate looking and watching MSNBC and CNN right now, or watching the videos from Sean King, but I've learned a lot since this conflict has started, which is now a full-blown war. And my heart hurts for these families who are burying babies. There's one video where they show the kids playing in a ditch that they dug out to bury bodies, and the kids said they're playing in the ditch that they're going to be buried in. So when we talk about a ceasefire, this is above our pay grade, but it's okay to say we don't want any more kids on either side killed. It's just terrible to even watch at this point. It's terrible. And it doesn't matter whether you're Jewish or you're Muslim or you're Christian or you're Palestinian. People are dying, and something has to give here. Sometimes I think the United States meddles too much in other people's conflicts, and we may be doing that right now. You're sending aid, but you're sending weapons. It makes no sense to me. And I know there's someone probably mad at me for saying it, but somebody had to say something. Lastly, but unfortunate, probably should be the most important on our radar is what has happened over the weekend here in the city of Akron. Since last Saturday, we have had gun violence at an alarming rate yet again. I will request of our public safety chair if maybe we could put together some kind of symposium with these bar owners across the city, the ones who will actually show up and talk about what safety measures they have at their bars. But to hear about all these shootings, murders, and homicides at these bars over this weekend, it's troubling. Do they have security? It doesn't matter whether it's APD or private security. What are the security measures in these clubs across the city? because to constantly get the reports, either from Miller or Lachlan, we all should be concerned about what is going on. It's not even safe to go out and have a good time or have a drink with your friends anymore, because people are getting killed, whether it's in their parking lot or inside the establishment. There has to be some onus of those bar owners. So I think we need to be reaching out to them, finding out what their plans are, and having them come in and having a conversation with us. This is the reason why we keep objecting to liquor license. And people get upset with us, but this is the reason why. We have to do something, because all I see now is the electronic obituary on Facebook of people dying at a club or being shot at a club, or gunshot victims all being taken to the same hospitals. Something has to give. We've got some serious problems here in Akron that we need to deal with, and we need to deal with them now because they're only getting worse. The guns aren't going anywhere. It's only getting worse. Everybody has a gun. Our young people who shouldn't own a gun have guns. I've been sent the video from the fight at Lawton Street. For what my colleague has stated, if our parents are saying we can finish this at Lawton Street, that should concern each and every one of us. I think sometimes we're really quick to talk about and speak up for things when we don't know the whole story. And if the parents are saying that, they're part of the problem as well. And we need to do something about it before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Is there anything else coming before council at this time? If not, is there a motion for adjournment? If there's no objection, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.